Dragon's Lair, the fantasy adventure where you become a valiant knight on a quest to rescue the fair princess from the clutches of an evil dragon. You control the actions of a daring adventurer.
Dragon's Lair, the early 80s classic most of us are familiar with. But would you believe the version playing in front of you now in full screen and so smoothly is running on a machine that only has a 33 megahertz DLC CPU? How is it doing this? Magic. Reelmagic.
Lead on, adventurer. Your quest awaits.
Hey guys, I'm kind of excited to talk to you about what I have today, because it's not something that's talked about a lot, especially not on YouTube. There's very little about this on YouTube, and what we're talking about today are the Sigma Designs Reelmagic MPEG-1 decoder cards. So what these would do, these cards would go into your PC alongside with your video card, and basically they would decode MPEG-1 video. So, you know, it let you have video on relatively underpowered computers at the time, full screen, you know, very smooth, good looking. So actually, to help explain a little bit, I have a snippet here of a promotional video that came out early 90s.
As the computer industry moves into the 1990s and beyond, resellers and consumers are demanding that manufacturers of PC peripherals increase their products' ease of use, while providing leading-edge technology, service, and more value for every dollar spent. One company that meets this new criteria and is forging ahead with new innovations, products, and services is Sigma Designs. In fact, what you are looking at is a music video playing back on an ordinary personal computer. It's all due to a new technology being produced in Sigma Designs' high-technology laboratory. Reelmagic from Sigma Designs is a PC-compatible plug-in adapter that allows anyone with a PC to realize a new standard in digital communications. Utilizing the latest Motion Pictures Expert Group, or MPEG decompression technology, Reelmagic will allow you to play back video at the standard 30 frames per second NTSC standard, brings video games into a new dimension, and permits you to integrate video into educational or business presentations.
Okay, so yeah, that pretty much sums it up in a nutshell here. So what these did is, as I said before, they decoded MPEG video, so kind of like, you know, FMV videos. And at the time, the computers, like you've got early 486s and even 386 CPUs, they couldn't really decode the video very smoothly or well. So what these did, these took all the burden off the CPU, and the image was overlaid with your video card. They kind of interacted with the video card. I'll explain that in a minute. And they gave you the ability to watch MPEG-1 movies and, you know, games that used FMV sequences and whatnot at the time, and it was very smooth. At the time, of course, there was a lot of videos in the games at the time, but they had to make a lot of compromises because it was such a burden on the CPU and the system in general. So what you'd get is you'd get kind of low resolution, grainy, like movie FMV sequences. Usually it was confined to like a little square, you know, it was in the middle of the screen, really cut down in size. So with these cards installed, it actually changed all that. You were getting full screen, smooth, very smooth, decent quality FMV. So it was actually kind of a neat card. Didn't really take off. We all know FMV sort of faded away, which is probably a good thing, or at least it's used, you know, better now. It's almost comical how it was used in the initial stages, but yeah, it's just really neat. These cards are getting a little bit hard to find, and it's just really cool. So what I'm going to talk about, I'm mostly going to talk about this card, and in all the little demonstrations I do, this is the card I've used, but I wanted to show comparison because this is the earlier card. Now, these cards are pretty hard to find. These ones not so much. So this is a later Reelmagic. Now originally these were called Reelmagic, R-E-E-L Magic, like a movie reel. But later on they changed it to Reelmagic, R-E-A-L, and this is the rebadge, the Reelmagic. Now you could tell right away it's a much smaller card. But yeah, they're both ISA cards, but the thing with these ones is, well, I'll talk about how they connect. First of all, I'll talk about this one. Now this is a Reelmagic Lite, specifically a Reelmagic CD Lite. And why it's the Lite version is because the regular version, one, it had a connector right here, so you could actually add on a OPL3 FM sound chip. So it could also function as kind of like a sound blaster as well as your MPEG decoder. And it also had connectors here for various CD drive hookups and whatnot. Now this is the Lite version, so it doesn't have those. This purely just decodes MPEG-1, which is fine. That's what I wanted. The Lite versions tend to be a little cheaper than the full-blown ones. Now, how this connects is, I have this connected right here, but there's pins right here for a cable, and this is just, it hooks up to a VESA feature connector. So the card I have mine hooked up to is this, the good old trusty ET4000 ISA. Yep, there he is inspecting it, meets his approval. So this is a good card, and this is something that they would typically, this would be kind of like a card that it would be paired with. Now, this card has a VESA connector up here. So what you do, you'd install these side by side, and then you just connect them like that. Like that. So that's how they would connect, and that's how they would share the video information. And then you would actually hook your VGA monitor up to here, and it would overlay, and then it would just, everything would come out through the decoder card, even when you weren't using the decoder card. So you didn't have to keep swapping back and forth. Now you may be wondering what this is on it. There were also some earlier cards, some of the Trident cards come to mind, that their VESA feature connector was a edge connector. So this cable allowed you to use either. So that's kind of cool. Now the difference, the big difference with this one, now this one and all the later ones, and most of them actually, connected a different way. It connected more like you would see on a Voodoo 1 and 2 card. So it would connect through an external pass-through, something like this. Now this isn't the correct size, even though it was advertised on eBay to be for a Reelmagic card. I don't think it is, or maybe it's a different model Reelmagic card, because it doesn't, it's a little too small, it doesn't have the right number of pins. But that's basically the theory. You know, you'd hook it in here, and then this would hook into your primary display video card. So that's kind of how that works. So I'm not really going to talk about this. Generally these were more compatible with more cards, because not every card had a VESA connector and whatnot. So these tended to be a little more compatible with video cards in general if you had the correct connector. But yeah, they're not really, it's hard to find that pass-through cable. But these ones, because it uses an internal connector, you actually get better video output quality, image quality with this. So I prefer this one anyways. And you may also be wondering what that is. Well, actually, this, when you're playing something that uses this card, it not only streams the video, but audio straight from the CD through there. So what you want to do, you want to mix this with your sound card. So it would come out of here, you'd have a jack, audio jack that comes out of here into your line in on your sound card, and then you'd set up your mixer, and then you'd output it to your speakers. So alright, so that's basically what the card is and what it does. So what about software? What about games? Well, it's not how you think it would be. It's not where you would have a game and you could play the game and it would have an option. You know, it would play it you would think that you would get a game and you'd play it and it would play the video crappily if you didn't have the card, and then if you did have the card, you'd get the improved results. It didn't really work like that. They made games specifically for this card. So if, for example, Dragon's Lair, of course, at the beginning of the video is a good example. Now, if you had the regular version of Dragon's Lair and you had this card, you would not get the added benefits of this card. You need a special Reelmagic version of Dragon's Lair. And that's kind of the problem with these cards. There were not a whole lot of games that used the Reelmagic card. Now, you can't even trick it. It's not like the video is actually on the CDs and you can trick it. You need the Reelmagic version of the game. It makes special calls to the card to see if it's there. So you really do need those Reelmagic game versions. I'll show a couple of those in a second here. But yeah, generally the versions that used the Reelmagic, that were Reelmagic versions, they had full screen video as compared to, smaller windowed, much smoother, better quality video scenes. So at Dragon's Lair would be a perfect type of game for this kind of card. So I have 3 with me right here. I have Dragon's Lair, and I have Return to Zork, and I have this weird game, Psychotron. So, now these games, they're a little bit hard to find. And there's not even a really good resource of what games came out for the Reelmagic card. It's a little murky. There's a couple other bigger games that, like the Horde, had a Reelmagic version. Space Ace had a Reelmagic version, which I will show some footage of, but I don't actually have the physical game, really. And there's a lot of games, like some people say Police Quest 4 had a Reelmagic version, but I can find no evidence that that exists. I'm trying to think of other examples, but I mean, there's not a whole lot. I know there's a version of Horde that exists, and sometimes these versions, other than just better video quality and things like that, they had some extended scenes, some special effects that were a little bit different. I think Return to Zork is probably one of the best examples, because if you compare the intro video for the Reelmagic version to the regular retail CD version, it's like night and day. The Reelmagic version is really good. And I'm going to show some clips that are going to compare those directly, so you can see it. It's a noticeable difference. And there's also some other little things, like if you've ever played the normal version of Return to Zork, there's a crystal ball in that game, and there's a animated face in there that shows up, and there's a wizard and he talks.
Hey, I've been talking a long time. I sense movement. I need a new battery. Can you hear me? A new battery.
And the normal, it's like normal in the retail version of the game. You can see his head in there and he's talking. But as you progress in the game, it eventually gets to a point where it's really awkward, because the wizard will show up in the crystal ball, but only his mouth will be animated. It's very strange and kind of jarring.
Well, we thought we'd gotten rid of the bad magic. Cows got fatter, people slimmed down, food got better, life was good.
That was just because they ran out of room. That would be my guess. They ran out of room on the regular CD, because that takes, obviously, a fully animated head, and the crystal ball takes up more space. In the Reelmagic version, his head remains animated throughout the entire game. Other little enhancements like that. I believe the Return to Zork version, Reelmagic version, is kind of like a really good example of a game that's better with the Reelmagic card. Now, about these games, they're hard to find, yes, but are they expensive? No, and that's because nobody cares or knows about Reelmagic. So basically, what you have to do is go on someplace like eBay and sift through tons and tons of jewel case versions until you find one. As far as I know, they're all labeled somehow with Reelmagic. So this Return to Zork, I just went on eBay and I just went through tons and tons of Return to Zorks until I found a case that had this little label in the corner. And then I asked the seller if he could open it up and tell me if the CD was labeled, and it is. Reelmagic right there, Sigma Designs. Now, as far as I know, none of the Reelmagic versions of games came in a box. Maybe the Horde did, but I'm not sure. So I know Return to Zork only came in the jewel case because it was packed in with a Reelmagic card. It might have been like that with the others. I've never actually seen a boxed version of any Reelmagic game. Not saying they don't exist, but it's far easier to find the jewel case version. And this was just the same price as a CD regular version of Return to Zork, which is not much. I think it was like $5. Same with this game. I haven't actually played this game though because, well, this one doesn't work in DOS. It works in Windows, and I just haven't set up the card in a Windows machine yet. Dragon's Lair was a little bit hard to find the Reelmagic version for, but when I did find it, wasn't expensive at all. Not really any more expensive than the regular version, because, like I said, most people don't know or don't care, but you can tell there's usually a little Reelmagic icon on there, which is not present on the regular version. So yeah, and the disc. You want to make sure. I guess it's unlikely, but someone could have a regular version inside a Reelmagic case, so that's always a possibility, I suppose. Alright, so that's about all my jabbering. So we're just going to look at some footage I captured from these games. As far as I know, there isn't some of these things like Return to Zork at the moment. There isn't any footage of the Reelmagic version online, so that's kind of cool. I could be wrong. Maybe my searching skills suck. But so let's look and compare some of these Reelmagic games. So I'm just showing right here, this is the driver installation. It's very simple. I'm using version 2.01. There's earlier, there's later one. This is the latest one I could find where it was still called Reelmagic and not Reelmagic, R-E-A-L. Later drivers will work just fine. This is just the one I wanted to use, but it's really easy. You can run tests that will tell you if you have any conflicts. You can set up your IRQ and DMA here. I was having a lot of trouble at first because it was conflicting with my sound card, but you can just adjust it all through there. I do want to talk, here's just the system booting up. I really want to talk real quick about Dragon's Lair, because some of these games are very odd how they install. For instance, you can't run the Dragon's Lair from the CD. When you install the drivers, the executable actually installs in the Reelmagic directory. So you actually have to go to the Reelmagic directory and you type in Dragon and enter, and if you have your CD in, it will work. It's not like what you'd think where it runs. You run the executable off the CD. It's very strange with Dragon's Lair.
Here, the fantasy adventure where you become a valiant knight.
So here's just a comparison between a Reelmagic and the only other version I had on hand, which is the Windows 95 Deluxe Edition of Dragon's Lair. Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to get Dragon's Lair in full screen for Windows 95 version, if it even can, but they look fairly similar. I'm running in 16-bit color on the Windows 95 version, and if I up the resolution any more than 800 by 600, it becomes like a slideshow, and that was on a 550 megahertz K6-3, so I mean, very comparable between the two.
Your quest awaits.
Now that said, I still prefer the Reelmagic version, even on the 33 megahertz DLC. It just, I don't know, it feels a little more authentic. I don't have that weird Windows border around it. You know, right here is some of my footage from the Reelmagic. Unfortunately though, I'm terrible at this game. I just cannot get the timing down right, and yeah, I only got past this drawbridge part once, but the controls for the Reelmagic version are really odd. They're just bizarre. That pause there was my video capture software. It wasn't the actual game. So here's the only other version I have on me. It's the Windows 95 version. It's in a windowed screen. I couldn't figure out how to do it full version if you can. It's a little grainier in my opinion. I'm running at what it recommends, 16-bit color. It's running on a Voodoo Banshee. A little better with this version. I think the timing is a little bit easier. And I got an error. So the Reelmagic version is probably a little more stable, it seems, anyways. Okay, so here's my comparison of the retail and the Reelmagic version of Return to Zork. I'm going to shut up through most of this, but the differences are pretty obvious. The Reelmagic version seems, runs a little smoother. Obviously, it's full screen. And remember, these are running on the exact same 33 megahertz DLC computer. Exact same.
the sweepstakes winner. I've been looking forward to... No! No!
So finally here I'm going to do some little bonus footage from Space Ace. Now this Space Ace took me a minute to figure out how to install because technically it works the same as Dragon's Lair. You can't run it from the CD executable or you'll get a driver not found, but there's no special executable in the Reelmagic file, so you have to run the driver first, the FMPDRV from your Reelmagic directory to initiate the Reelmagic drivers. So it took me a second to figure that one out.
Space Ace, defender of justice, truth, and the planet Earth. Ace is being attacked by the evil Commander Borg.
Hold your fire! Who is that creep? Christmas must surrender to me.
No way, Borg, old buddy.
Oh! I've been hit! By the Infanto Ray.
Christmas must surrender to me.
Struggle with Dexter to regain his manhood. Destroy the Infanto Ray. Defeat the evil Borg.
Hey, Borg! Come on, Kimberly, let's go. I've been hit.
Be valiant, Space Warrior. The fate of Earth is in your hand. Space Ace.
There's Borg's ship.
Those
So, in the end, should you pick up a Reelmagic card, either the old or new? Is it worth it? Not really. I mean, like I usually say, if you come across one for like a couple bucks, by all means, you know, if you have the machine for it, install it. It can't really hurt, except for eating up some resources. But I mean, I wouldn't really search these things out. The newer ones like this, they're pretty cheap. So, you know, but then again, you have to find the little doggle for it. I haven't been able to find the correct one for it. You might be able to make one for it, but yeah, these ones are fairly abundant. I don't know about compatibility, but this should be more or less compatible, like, you know, with the old one. I mean, the older ones with the VESA connector, internal connection, are really the ones to get, and they tend to be a little pricey. There's a couple on eBay now that are well over $100, and those are the full ones with the little, you know, the connector, the IDE connector, and the OPL3 and whatnot. Mine I paid a little under $50 for, but, you know, I happen to like and collect weird old PC hardware. So I think for the average, you know, retro gamer, retro PC gamer, there's just not enough benefit to justify getting one of these things, really. At least not enough to pay $40 or $50 or more dollars for one of these. There's really not that many games that specifically support it. The games are very hard to find, and they're not exactly like great games or exclusives. I mean, like Space Ace or Dragon's Lair, you know, there's much newer, better versions. There's DVD and Blu-ray versions now. You know, there's things like The Horde and Return to Zork, which are, you know, better when you get the Reelmagic version. You get the full screen, you get some little extra scenes and snippets and whatnot, better quality, but it's not that much. It's not like the game is horrible or unplayable in the regular CD version. It's just kind of like a little bonus or a little plus. You know, it's not really necessary. So, like I said, I wouldn't seek one of these things out. If you have one, install it. You know, but good luck finding the games. They're just not that common. The good thing is, though, when you do find them, they tend to be just as expensive as the regular version, because people just don't know or don't care that they're Reelmagic versions. So, you know, I guess that's one positive. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. So, I'll have some more stuff coming for you in the future. So, thanks again.